Good morning. Welcome to the Biz Kidz Hub. Today we are excited to have a guest speaker with us that's in the construction business. We have Brett Diamond, and Brett is going to talk to us about his entrepreneur journey and how he started thinking about entrepreneurship as a kid and some of the things that he's created and done. And so we're going to get some feedback from him. So thank you, Brett, for being here today. We're excited that you're our guest on the Biz Kidz Hub today.
Awesome. No, thanks, JD. This is awesome. I have three children of my own, 8, 6, and 3 years old. And we're in that lifestyle now. We're trying to get them into that business mindset as well. It's been a passion of my father's, mine, and now I'm trying to pass that to the next generation of the Diamond family. So this is going to be really cool. I'm excited.
Nice. Well, as I always tell the kids, you always have to have your 60-second pitch ready to go because you never know who you're going to meet and be able to tell them about yourself. So we're going to put you on the spot and have you do your 60-second pitch. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what's a good customer for you or referral for you.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. So before I do that important pitch, I want to make sure I have 2 different businesses. So this one I'm going to focus on is on VentureX, which is a business I founded with my father back in the day. And then I also do construction too with my father. So we both operate the same businesses. We've been business partners since I could legally be a business partner. But so this pitch, an elevator pitch, will be for VentureX. So like you said, very important to have. I like to start out with kind of the need, the problem, and then my solution to it. That's kind of how I developed mine over the years. So here it is. So if you operate a business and you need office space, the traditional method requires like a 3 to 7 year lease. And it's expensive. It's thousands to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to build out and buy furniture, build the construction, the drywall, all these different things. So at VentureX, the business that we developed, we've designed a beautiful and sustainable office space where people can love to come to work to every day. It's fully furnished, it's fully staffed, and ready to use the exact same day that you come in for your very first tour. So as a bonus, you gain access to locations across the globe. We have over 100 locations open where you can organically network with small businesses, startups, and even companies that might be 4 to 500 company sizes. So in short, we've erased the long-term old school leasing model and introduced a membership-based one. The easiest way to think about it is think gym membership meets office space. So running a business is really hard, as you all have seen, and we believe you shouldn't have to invest a significant amount of money into a long-term lease, dealing with landlords. So we made that easy for you to be a month-to-month office space solution. So if you're ever in the area, our location is down in Naples. Please contact me. I'd love to give you a tour and see if it works for your business. And we have locations all over the globe. So if you just go to venturex.com, you can see over 100 locations really in most of the big countries around the globe.
Nice. So in the Naples area that most of our kids that are going to be watching this right now are that. Tell us a little bit more about like how you got that idea to start this type of a business right out of the chute.
Yeah, so we opened the very first location in 2012, and it was in Mercado. So most people know where Mercado is at, a very well known area in Naples. And I graduated college in 2012 actually as well. So I started it right after college. I actually started it during college, but we couldn't open it until I could work full time. But back in 2010, 2011 timeframe, my last year or two of college, we saw this movement in the office space environment where mostly like in San Francisco and in New York and a little bit in Austin, Texas, where a lot of these tech companies were trying to find better office space solutions for them. Because kind of how I mentioned in my elevator pitch, traditionally you have to sign like a 3 to 7 year lease for office space. You have to hire a contractor to do all the build out, to build your office space for you and then buy all the furniture. And it's very expensive for small businesses to do that. So we saw this trend called co-working. That's the kind of the industry is co-working, collaborative working, where companies would start sharing their office space. So you would rent desks or one-offs at a time. So it's easier for you to scale and there's no long-term contract that really holds you accountable. So we saw that and we started visiting those. And when I was in college, I started flying to New York and to San Francisco. At that time, my father was a big angel investor, and he still is, but he was doing really big investments into tech companies. So we would visit them, and they'd all be in these co-working spaces. But there was no big brand doing it. Like all the brands that were launching them at these locations were like one-offs. And we're like, okay, there's nothing in our area for that at all. Like this isn't even a term that I don't think people in Naples know about. And it was true. So when we came back, my senior year of college, I actually did a paper in my business class in my entrepreneurship class on this. So I kind of like did a 2-for-1 where I could do work and schoolwork at the same time. And I used this for my senior project. And then we ended up opening the location in 2012 in Mercado, and I don't know how far you want me to go in the story, but we began franchising it, and then now we have, like I said, over 100 locations around the globe.
And I think the big takeaway there that I got out of this is you said, this is something you worked on in school to kind of get the ball rolling,
Yeah.
and it was one of your projects in school. I did the same thing when I was in college. I had a lawn care company that I started, and I did my thesis for my master's degree on this program or this company that I was trying to build, and we mapped it all out during school. And then when I got out of school, I had a plan and I was ready to go full force into it. So I think that's a
cool.
great takeaway to understand, the dynamics of how your education and the environment that you're in can actually launch you to that next step.
Yeah.
So did you have any businesses as a kid?
Yes, a lot of attempts, I should say. A lot of things that you think is cool at the time, or you think is could be even a fad at the time. And I kept trying things over and over again. So like every, I shouldn't say every kid, but a lot of young kids, they do lemonade stands. So instead of lemonade, I would sell business or baseball cards. So I'd go out by my street and sell baseball cards. I would even, this is embarrassing to say, I would sell rocks. So I'd find cool rocks when I was like, real young, and go out by the street by my neighborhood and just sell cool rocks or baseball cards. But then fast forward into like late high school, early college, before VentureX and everything was existing. I did have more legitimate legalized businesses that I built LLCs for that were also not successful, but really cool learning experiences. And I'll touch on 2 of those if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the very first one was, I want to say I was maybe 18. I just started college. I went to Florida Gulf Coast, FGCU in Fort Myers, so pretty local. And I was really big into UFC, which is like the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And I wasn't a fighter at all. I just really loved the sport. And at that time, all those big brands like Affliction and Tap Out were coming out, all those t-shirt brands that everyone wore back then. I personally don't wear those now, but that was the big fad back then. And I was like, man, that sounds cool. I could probably do that. And it seemed, inexpensive. I didn't have any money. I was working actually in college. I was like a janitor for my landlord at his business. So I didn't have any money. And I said, okay, I can do this. So I found a designer on elance.com, like a t-shirt designer. And I made the brand called Combat Fighter. And basically my portions would go to veterans and military. And Combat Fighter was just a brand name and a very tap out style design, but very Americanized as well too. And I had full t-shirts printed out, designed, delivered. I found like a local fighter I sponsored. And but I had no idea how to operate a clothing company at all. I just really liked the sport. And I pretty much ran out of money. I didn't have any money as a college student. And I gave too much to that guy I sponsored, probably for no reason. And so it's a lot of those learning things of how to allocate your funds when they are limited. And so that was the very first one. It maybe lasted that first year of college before I kind of ran out of funds and didn't sell my t-shirts. Then the next one is cool because it led into VentureX. So this one was also, I don't want to call it a failure because we didn't spend much time on, or we spent a lot of time on it, but not a lot of money, but it led into a successful VentureX company. So this one was a software company, a mobile app company that we call Talk Near. And the problem that I saw in college, this is probably my sophomore, junior year now, was I wanted to communicate with other people in the dorms without knowing who they were, but I wanted to be able to post like a tweet or like a status, and be able to post it with a location base. So I had to have a buddy that works for a big tech company now out in the valley. He still is. He's an insanely talented designer for web interfaces. And we built this whole front end of the app that would allow us to post, tweets, if you would call them that. And you could set like a 2 mile radius, and anybody, whether you knew them or not, within 2 miles could see that status, or you could adjust it down to 50 feet just for your dorm room to be able to see. And it was basically a location-based communication platform. But we had, again, no funds. We didn't have much access to like backend developers to really build the whole platform out in an efficient way. But I still had my first bookmark on my browser still today is my user interface for Talk Near, because it kind of reminds me of the starting of it all. And then fast forward is how I started researching Venture X. Is I traveled up to New York my last summer of college, between junior and senior year, with the hope to find a backend developer. And I was working out of co-working spaces. So when I was up there, I was trying to go to all the events at the co-working space, and after parties and stuff to find, I should say, business networking after parties, to find a backend developer for Talk Near. And at the same time, that allowed me to see what co-working was, which is what Venture X is now. So I was able to study the what I didn't know at the time would be my next business venture. So it's pretty cool. So Talk Near doesn't exist anymore. I just keep that front end, available, so I can kind of reference it and remind myself where it all kind of started. But it was really good learning experience, and how to network, and how to, sell your product to potential business partners, stuff like that too. So a lot of learning.
Well, and that's one of the themes of our program is we want kids to understand that you try different things, and failure is part of that process to go through. So we celebrate the failures. We want kids to understand, hey, I tried this business, but it didn't work out. But what opportunities did you learn? What lessons did you learn that turned into new opportunities as you went down that road? So I started a lawn care company. As a kid, I was mowing lawns and doing little yard work for people. Ended up turning that into a full-time lawn care business, where I had staff, trucks, all that good stuff, doing that. And then during 2008, during the crash of the market, everybody that had a lawnmower started getting into the lawnmower business, right? So I had all this competition now. Not only did I have thousands of competitors in the beginning, but now I have even more, because everybody's trying to find a way to make a buck. And we had customers ask us, well, can you clean my roof? And I don't want to get on a roof. I don't want to have to do the ladders. I don't want to have to do that. And then we realized there's a lot of people that didn't want to do that. And so we said, okay, let's try it. And our competitors went from 1,000 competitors to 3. There was 3 in our area that were actually doing that type of work. And so we were able to get on there. When we got a phone call, the other 2 guys were usually too busy to answer their phone. So we took the job right away. So we didn't have the competition. I didn't want to be in the roofing business, a roof cleaning business, but it just was an opportunity that came. It showed us that, hey, this is actually more profitable than the lawn care business. And so we cut back our lawn care business down to about 20% of our business, and went full-time roof cleaning. So cool. You just never know where you start and how it's going to end up getting you along that process.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say is one of the biggest, or what was a failure that you really learned from that you were just completely upset about at the time, but now look back on it and go, wow, I'm glad I went through that?
Yeah, it was, let me think here, biggest failure. So,
and it doesn't have to be your biggest failure.
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, so I can relate to what kind of you just mentioned, where we had to go through like a pivot almost. Like it was like an aha moment. It was like oh wow, that's not going to work. We need to do this instead. So when we first opened Venture X, in 2012. We built the model. That was a very open concept. So what we saw like in New York and California and mostly like the Valley area was co-working spaces were like anti-offices, like open share desk only. No one wants an office anymore. This is the cool thing to do. And okay, maybe that's what's the trend. Maybe that's what, if we want to be the first one in Florida or our area in Florida. I think there was like one in Miami or two in Miami. But if we want to be ahead of the curve, we need to do this model, And so we got down here, we did that, and we had like, what was our first location? 8,000 square feet, but only had like four private offices, and the rest was like wide open. It looked beautiful, looked cool. It, got tons of PR because no one knew what it was, but it was a huge education thing. So like you had to like not just market and brand yourself, but you had to educate people on what this open concept of office space is. And that was hard. Like that was to start a business that people already know about is already hard enough. Like if you want to start a coffee shop, you don't have to explain what coffee is to people, but it's still hard to open a coffee shop. But to start a business that, no one even knows what the word co-working is, they need to educate them on the word and then sell them on the brand. It was an extra layer. So fast forward into like, we built it out, and 6 months into it, I'm working, at the time it was me plus like two interns. Like I'm an only full-time employee. I just got out of college and I had like two interns I knew from college, that were still in college for one more year. So a very lean budget. And we realized that this open concept wasn't working as much as we thought. It worked great in these big cities because they had tech companies up there, startups that are like tech startups. They can work in the open area. They just put headphones on and they're developers coding all day. But in Naples, we don't have a huge tech scene. So like our clients are becoming attorneys and marketing companies and we had a construction company in there that was just a two-person construction company. So we have all these normal businesses and they need more privacy than tech companies. So 6 months into opening, we literally had to go into construction again while we stayed open and built out more offices. So if you can imagine like 8,000 square feet of pretty much open space, someone's desk is right here, and right here is a big construction tarp trying to block off the dust as they're, we would build, luckily we have a construction company, so we could manage the schedules and we did most of it at night or before hours. So we were working, our construction crews at night or early morning, then stop at 8 a.m. when workers came in to work at their desk. And it was just like, it wasn't necessarily it turned into a success, but that first original idea would definitely failed a little bit because we anticipated it working in the area. So we had to pivot pretty quick. I mean, 6 months went by fast. We had to scramble and draw up a whole new floor plan, get permitting for new offices, and change really the concept of what we thought we knew. And now all of our locations, the franchise locations, are like, let's say, 80% private offices, 20% open collaborative areas, and that's the model that works really, really well.
And I think that's a good illustration of like, you have to understand if you're getting into business, things are going to pivot. There's going to be times and changes that you just like, it's not working out. You have to do something to make it to change it. You have to do something that's going to be different, and it's going to throw everybody off. And you're going to be dealing with your employees that they're used to a way of doing business, and now you have to convince them that this is the good time we have to change. So there's a lot of layers to that. Not only your customers, you have to explain you're changing. Your employees, you have to explain you're changing or pivoting. And so it's letting everybody know in that process why you carry all that stress on your shoulders going, okay, I need to make this happen seamlessly, and making sure that it all goes well so no one's upset.
Yeah, change management is I'll argue probably the hardest thing in any business. Dealing with change of any concept, people just don't like change, whether it's employees or clients or whoever. Change management is extremely difficult, but it's important to be able to, if you understand that going in and this, it'll pay off in the end. It's better to do that than just keep trying to force something that's not going to work.
And that's why we have this format here is we want to educate young entrepreneurs and let them know be prepared for these types of things up front. Because I see a lot of people that do get into business and have no idea what they do. They're great at their product. They know their service. They know that, but they don't understand how to run the business. And if you can prepare yourself for knowing when to pivot, how to pivot, and how to control your emotions during that time, you're going to be ahead of the game. Also, you want to really understand rejection. There's going to be people that don't like your idea. There's going to be naysayers all along the way that say, you can't do this. This is not the right way. This is a horrible business idea. But if you believe in yourself and you're moving towards something, you just keep on moving that bar, keep on going for it, because if you believe in it, you can get it done. So
Yeah.
what advice would you give a young entrepreneur as they're getting into business and trying to figure all this out? And if they think they have an idea or they want to come up with an idea, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, and I have two things. I want to say something about what you just mentioned. I'll kind of float it into that question too. But
Sure.
one of the biggest things I think that helped me back then and still helps me now is my competitive nature. I love to compete. I don't like losing. It's like playing sports as a kid, most people will go through the same thing. I'm not unique in this, but what you just mentioned is you'll have naysayers, and that was huge for me. Like that fueled my fire. And back when we first started, like I was mentioning earlier, is we brought a concept into the area that no one had ever heard of. So it's easy for naysayers to be like, that's never going to work here. That's for Silicon Valley. That's for New York. You're going to, I would have my close acquaintances, I would call my close friends, didn't do this, but acquaintances I had known in college or even in the business world through my dad that would just, balk at the idea and just say, that's not going to work. Sorry, man. Like, good luck, and they'd say that to you, like to me, I should say, like they'd say to my face. Oh, and I remember like just that would just like get me like, oh my gosh, I got to prove this guy wrong. And there's still one direct example is a pretty large well-known company. I'm not going to mention their names, but well-known local company. Back when we first opened, I would say this is probably within the first 8 months of us opening. The CEO and the COO of this company came in, and I knew who they were. And I'm young. I'm like 21, right out of college. So I knew who they were. Kind of was like, oh, this is cool. Like I love these guys. And they came in. I thought they were looking for office space, and so I'm giving the whole pitch, right? The tour of the pitch, and at the end of it, after end of all my hope, I was giving them, they go, oh no, we're not here to buy from you. We're looking at your whole facility. So when you go out of business, we can take this location. And I'm like, man, that was like a dagger. I'm like, wow, that was brutal. And for these, well-successful businessmen to treat a young entrepreneur that way just crushed me at that time. I remember that whole day was just ruined for me. And obviously 10 years later, I'm still thinking, 14 years later, I'm still thinking about it. But it's like, but it still like fuels my fire. Like that was one of the things that's like, okay, I need to prove these people wrong. I'm going to hustle however I can to make this work. And it obviously ended up doing well. And, but it's one of those things. So I say that because that's one of the answers, I guess, to your question is, what can you do is just put those naysayers to the side or let them fuel your fire. Like if you're competitive, let that build your fire up. But I think you also have to be in a business that you're passionate about too, because that will, if you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to want to defend it as much. Like I had a passion for this model because I knew, I really was attracted to it when I saw it in other cities, and I saw what it could, the help provided for young startups and all these different things. And I saw the collaborative nature of businesses connecting when they were in this space. So that was really cool to me. So I wanted to make it work, one, for that reason, but two, I wanted to make sure it was a success for just my own sanity, that I knew I could personally do it. I knew I could prove people wrong in a sense, which sounds petty, but that's what helped me at the time. But passion, it comes down to, I think everyone says that, but it's so accurate. Like if you have a passion for something, you'll find a way to fight to make it successful.
Yep. Yep. And if you haven't heard my story before, my third grade teacher told my parents that I would never graduate high school. And
Yeah, I remember you
so
saying that.
it was kind of like my drive too to make sure
Yeah,
that, not only did I graduate high school, but I graduated college and I got my master's degree.
yeah,
And so I did it, just that fueled my fire. Just somebody to tell me that I wasn't worth anything. That gave me the fight to go out there and prove them wrong. So,
yeah, 100%.
what do you do to teach your kids about entrepreneurship? How do you get them involved in it?
Yeah, so this is actually not planned at all, but it was perfect timing because this past weekend we ended up getting chickens. And so this whole weekend, 3 days ago, I was building a chicken coop with my kids, mostly me building it, but they were assisting and building a chicken coop. We got chickens, and now actually this morning I had a conversation with them on how they can do that and to make money. So I sat down with them this morning as they're eating breakfast, half out of it still, right? They're still waking up. And I said, hey, I have an idea. I want to run by you guys. And it's the two girls that are 6 and 8. I said, you know how kids do like lemonade stands? Oh, yeah, yeah, I want to do that. And they've done that before. I said, well, what if we do that, but with the chicken eggs? So why don't you guys, as you can with between dance schedules and everything, but on weekends or whatever, assist me with cleaning the chicken coop, getting the eggs. And on Saturday mornings, when we're in town, they dance a ton, so we're always traveling. But when we're in town, we can do egg stands and invite people down the street or the neighborhood or even our friends to come by and buy eggs. And that money can be yours as a business, but I'll train you on how to use that to go out and buy more chicken feed or buy more pellets for the cage. And I'll teach you about what's called expenses. So it was probably way too deep. It was like 6:30 in the morning. I'm all amped up about it because I've already been up for a while. Then they're like looking at me like nodding, smiling. And then on the way to school, an hour later, they talk more about it. But so that's it. It's a good example of one. I think it's really good skills to have raising chickens or animals of any kind. It just teaches you a natural skill. But I want to, expand that and teach them how, if we sell eggs for X amount of dollars per dozen, how much of that has to go back to buy chicken feed, teaching the whole, it's a very basic P&L. But that's one way I think that they love because they are obsessed with the chickens. So I think it's going to be a fun experience for them and me.
So what I heard on the radio yesterday is somebody from Hawaii said that a dozen eggs is $18 for a dozen eggs in Hawaii. So if you could
Jeez.
figure out a distribution plan to get them to Hawaii, you can sell
Yeah.
your eggs at a lot higher price.
Got me thinking, yeah, no, that's not, yeah, they're not cheap here, but $18 is horrifying to
Yeah,
hear. I cannot imagine. Oh my
yeah, eight.
word.
Yeah, it was crazy. They said $7 for a loaf of bread, and
Jeez.
everything
I've
over
seen
there
that in
just because
Alaska.
shipped in. So
Yeah, Alaska was the same. I saw like a video on YouTube in Alaska, like juice was like $17 for a gallon of juice for a normal like Hawaiian punch juice. I'm like, goodness gracious. But it's all transportation fees, yeah. Yeah.
nice. Well, I appreciate you giving us your time today to kind of tell us your story and kind of how you ventured through um, entrepreneurship. And we'd love to find out more about your business. And thank you for being here for the kids today. Is there any final thoughts you thought, hey, the kids, I really want them to know this? Like maybe what are some
Yeah.
of the habits that you do in your daily day-to-day operation that make you really think about business and being productive?
Yeah, I think as you grow the business right now, I don't know, every business is unique for especially for the kids. You probably don't have employees yet, but I think communication is huge. I think as you grow, even now, I guess if you're communicating with your parents or whatever, I think that open communication, constantly asking questions is vital. So there's a few examples of that. So communication with parents on questions in general. Your parents are probably smarter than you give them credit for. So asking questions about, what am I doing wrong or how can I improve this and be open to their ideas. I think, a lot of times entrepreneurs, we want to know it's our idea. This is how it's going to work. I know this better than anybody, but be open to ideas from your parents or your friends. So that and then communication to the next level when you maybe hire somebody or maybe your parents are working with you is be honest, be transparent, and then most importantly, be authentic. Authenticity goes extremely far, especially for sales. So if you can be authentic with people that are buying your product and be genuine with them, 99% of people can see that. They can see authentic relationships. They can see when they're being sold like a car salesman, and they can see when you are genuinely proud of the product that you built and selling them something. So those are huge. I think that's one. It's actually in our construction mission statement is authentic relationships. It's one of the it's a 2 sentence mission statement, and part of it is being authentic to our clients and all of our relationships. So I think that's a huge thing. That's not necessarily a business trait. That's a life trait, is be authentic to who you are and then to who you are around. And then
Awesome.
last is continue learning. I learned, like, I literally will watch a YouTube or will listen to a podcast every single morning. So instead of when I work out in the morning, I don't put on music. I'll either put on a podcast that was posted last night or find a YouTube video of certain people in the business world that I respect, on whether it's the market or a product or technology, and just continue to learn, because your competitors are doing the same thing. So if you're not learning, they are, and they'll beat you. So
Exactly. Well, thanks again, Brett. We appreciate you taking the time to be on this episode, and hopefully the kids have learned some tidbits of how to run a business. And we're looking forward to seeing what you have in your future and what you're doing. And we'll be looking for those eggs on the market, because eggs are good. I'm going to be looking for you. So
perfect.
thanks for
I'll
the
listen on
time
there
today. I
out. Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks, JD. See y'all.